Hi everyone, I'm Latricia Talley and this is Writer Spotlight Wednesday. Today I am with Angela Grant. She is the author of the book, 2-7, The Awakening of Love. And I think it's very fitting that we are discussing this book today because it is the month of February. And of course, when we think about February, the first thing that comes to most people's minds is love and candy, hearts, Valentine's Day. So I think that's appropriate for us to be discussing this book today. But also, the month of February holds some significance for you, Angela. And what is that?
Well, of course, it's my birthday month. I mean, I celebrate with all the rest of the black people, so might as well, all month long. And also, it's actually a year since I first released the book. So last February, I released the book, and it was like a awesome thing to do. And so now it's my first anniversary, which is a great way to celebrate my anniversary with you.
Good. For those who may not be familiar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. All my life went to school here, but then once I got to college, I went to Clark Atlanta University, and then I went to New York University for my graduate degree. So I have a master's in school counseling. I'm currently a middle school counselor, and so I consider myself an author, a counselor, and a visionary.
Tell us a little bit about your book, 2-7, The Awakening of Love.
Well, 2-7, The Awakening of Love is really about love, loss, and healing from that loss. And so I always knew, I was never a big reader when I was younger, but I love to write poetry, short stories. I'm a journaler, like to write in my journal every night, usually just to recap my day. And
what girl doesn't?
Right. And so I decided to put those journals into a book, but for a long time I didn't realize what I wanted to write about until something happened in my life where the journaling now became my therapy. As opposed to just something that I would do. It became a way for me to release and be able to talk to some entity of me that understood where I didn't feel like other people would have understood.
What was the process like in writing the book? Because I know it's a very personal story for you, and I don't want to reveal too much about it. I guess I'll let you reveal as much about it as you want. But you did experience a loss, and you discussed that very candidly within the book. And so what was that like, kind of trying to tap into that and share your story with everyone?
Well, and I can share this much about the story, I don't mind. But I was engaged in 2006 to be married in the next following year, 2007, to a man that was killed in a motorcycle accident, tragically. And so we were engaged the week before the accident happened. So it was as if 2006 kind of had the best of times was the worst of times. So a little Charles Dickens. But because I had just graduated with my master's degree in counseling. And then a month later was the accident. And so it was almost as if my life was just starting and then my life ended suddenly, because we had a long distance relationship. We had finally come together. Everything was working out. And then this happened, and I didn't really know, because of course you plan for the future. Right. And of course they say God laughs at your plans. And so, so you plan for this future, you're planning now, you're engaged, you want to get married, you're looking at things. And even within a week I got excited, and my friends were excited. Right. And so it was really neat until, of course, that happened, and so I stopped wanting to feel anything. So I really just embraced, wanting to hurt and grieve. So it was painful. And so in deciding to write the book, I didn't want to talk to God because I was mad at him. I've been a believer since I was a little girl, but I didn't feel like I needed to talk to him for any reason. I even remember one morning I caught myself because I started praising him. And I said, oh yeah, I'm mad at you. I didn't forget about him. I didn't forget who my provider was. I just didn't want to talk to him. So like any other relationship, when you get mad at somebody, you give them the silent treatment, right? That's what women do.
Of course.
Exactly. So God got the silent treatment, and he's big enough to deal with my anger, So I just chose to do that as a way for me to kind of go within myself and figure out who I was again, and without this man in my life. And so it was an interesting process. I didn't really want to share my book. I just wanted it to be my own healing process. And like God often says, Angela, get over yourself, you know? And I'm like, but I like it being all about me. I don't want to do it. And he's like, get over yourself. It's about the people you will help.
Of course.
So not that you might help, not that you may help, but that you will help. So when he said that, because I am a helper, period, clearly I'm a counselor and I do that, and I'm an educator, I like to help people. So it only made sense that this be released.
And I agree, it does make sense. And I'm learning, the more that I live, the more that I understand that my purpose, our purpose, everybody's purpose in life is directly connected to other people, directly connected to helping other people. Exactly. And I agree that your book will definitely touch lives. It touched my life, you know, it will touch lives, it has touched lives, and it will continue to touch lives. And in the book, I know you definitely talked about a couple of moments where you did have the opportunity to touch some people's lives and you didn't even realize it. I know also in the book you mentioned where you had an opportunity to speak to a women's group at a church. And that was a huge thing for you because you had written this long script about everything that you were going to say. And as soon as you got up there, you just abandoned it all.
Exactly.
And that was purposeful, you know, maybe not for you, but
no, not at all.
But it served a purpose. It served a purpose. Have you had other opportunities to share with other people your testimony?
I have had other opportunities. Since clearly I said it started last year in February, and even since then in February, right after my book was published, I had the opportunity to do a heart-to-heart conference. So the lady that helped me complete the publishing of my book through self-publishing, she decided to do a heart-to-heart conference where she had different people come and do different testimonials. And so, of course, I didn't want to give away what the story was, so I just spoke from, you know, I didn't know my own strength, talking about the grieving process. And then it was a way for me to also, of course, promote the book. And we had three of those that last year. And then I had some book signings of where I might do a reading out of the book and be able to share with people. So I got to travel to Tampa and Chicago and New York. So I've been a few places, you know, trying to spread the story of the fact that you can go through something so tragic and still be able to come out with a reason for why God placed that in your life.
Sure.
Of course, to help people.
Well, what is the significance of 2/7? I don't know if you can reveal that much without giving much of the story away.
I don't mind. I can reveal all. It has so many significances, actually. So 2/7 has three significances. One, my birthday is February 2nd, and his birthday was November 7th. So right there you have 2/7. Then 2/7 in the Bible, it's Song of Songs or Song of Solomon, depending on what your Bible is. 2/7 says, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, 2/7, the awakening of love. It was the first time I had really felt love for a man that way, because I was very much not a relationship person. And then he came into my life and it felt like maybe I should, you know, acquiesce to this love thing, you know, give it a try. And also the other thing was, one of the other things I was going to say is one of the first interviews I did last year, the lady pinpointed, oh, wait a minute. So you said he died 7 years ago and the book came out in February. So it's the second month of the 7th year. And I was like, wow. So, you know, so that's, you know, one of the other ones. And then 2 and 7 are just my favorite numbers. So I just wanted to use
further confirmation.
Exactly. Further confirmation. And so much, even the color of the book, they're 2 of my favorite colors, if you did not know. And
yeah, I'm rocking the teal
rocking
today
the brown and the teal and the gold, living my life like it's golden. So I have to throw a little gold in there. And so a lot of the book, even the picture on the front, there was a picture of us walking down Times Square, and we were holding hands, standing the same way. And then the 2 being on me for my birthday and the 7 being on him. So there was so much confirmation when this book came out. It was like amazing.
That's perfect.
So God was like, little droplets of, I told you, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So I was like, oh, okay, I got you.
And further, I just think it's so funny how life is. I was reading in the back of your book that your name, Angela, means messenger who sheds great light. Did I get that right? And that's exactly what you're doing with this. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing how all the little pieces work together like that. You talk about in the book the importance or the power in continuing. Explain that to me.
Well, there's a quote, it's anonymous, I'm not sure who said it, but it's success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And so that was something that stuck out to me. I heard that quote before, then a friend of mine sent me as part of, a letter to say, I'm thinking of you, I love you, whatever. And it was continue was on the front of it. And so it just means to, even though things happen, you don't have to stay in that place. You can continue to live. You can continue to share. You can continue to give. You can continue to love. And you can continue to laugh. So that whole live, laugh, love is like become real cliche and everybody says it. But in that moment, I didn't want to love. I didn't want to laugh. I didn't want to do anything but grieve. Okay? Because I was like, when you love people, they die. And that hurts. And that adds another funeral that you have to go to. You continue to live in this life and it's stressful. Yeah. You continue to laugh and nothing's that funny. But I kind of remember the first time I laughed, I was like, wow, I remember that feeling. And he wasn't a part of my life my whole life.
Right.
He took up 3 years, most of which was a long distance relationship. But it was something about it that just made it magical. And I guess that's what love does to you. It just kind of consumes you and puts you in this place where you're like, there's nothing better than this feeling, even when they get on your nerves.
The love-hate relationship with love.
Exactly. What are you doing to me? This is crazy. It's insanity at its best.
Yeah, of course. You talk about finding purpose in your pain. What purpose did you find in your pain?
Well, of course, purpose in the pain is just taking something that's painful and not using it to hurt somebody, but to heal somebody. Because a truth is, hurt people, and so because they've been hurt so many times or they've been hurt once, they don't really know how to cope. Because if somebody hurt them, then they only know that maybe hurting is the right way, And so instead of hurting, I decided to change it to healing. If I'm going to be hurting, then maybe I can use this as a place where I can maybe heal somebody else, help somebody heal, aid in their, ability to want to even think about healing, and change their situation. And maybe even use it as I'm not telling you to write a book, but I'm telling you to use your story as a way to help somebody else.
Of course.
Yeah. So just turning that pain into purpose and using it for a good reason.
So what advice would you give to someone who may be hesitant about sharing his or her own testimony? Or maybe they're feeling, I don't even have a testimony to share.
Well, you never know who's in that place, because I knew there were people that were hurting, but initially I tried to grieve for other people so I didn't have to focus on myself. And then I realized I can't grieve for a mother that lost her son because I'm not a mother. I don't know what that's like. I can't even grieve for my parents who is watching their daughter go through this. I can only grieve for me who lost my fiance to focus on myself. And it was hard to do that. And I think a lot of people don't want to grieve because they think of grief as just the crying and the pain and the hurt. And you do go through those steps, the anger and the depression and the bargaining. But then there's acceptance. And they don't happen in a clear cycle. But the acceptance sometimes comes at the beginning, like, oh, well, everybody dies. It's meant to happen. And then it might be denial, like, I can't believe that happened. It might be bargaining, like, what could I have done to not allow this to happen? The depression where you go within yourself, the anger where you lash out at others. I even talk about some of my anger with some of the things that people say, and people say it all the time. Well, he's in a better place.
Right.
Or I'm sorry for your loss. And it's kind of like, it sounds good. I've said them. I've even said it after the fact, like, even though I feel like I know better. But it's because you just don't know what to say to people.
Right.
You don't know what to say. And sometimes the best thing you can say is, I'm praying for you. I'm thinking of you. People are like, is there anything I can do? And it's kind of like, you can't think. You can't think in that moment, like, yeah, I need you to come over and wash dishes or wash my clothes because I don't feel like doing it. It's like, no, you really can't. You can't fill that void. So, I don't really even know if I'm still answering your question at this point. Oh, like, what is the question?
Yes. What advice would you give someone about sharing their testimony?
To share their testimony, because you never know who needs it. I'd seen an email from a lady that I had no idea who she was. I tried to rack my brain to figure out, had I known her from somebody? Is she a friend of somebody and I just don't realize it? And she addressed me as Miss Grant. And I was like, if you know me, you can just call me Angela. depending on how long you know me, even though I'm not a big Angie fan, some people say Angie Pooh, try to change it up, or Ange or whatever, Miss A. And so she addressed me as Miss Grant, and I was like, clearly I don't know this lady. But her words were that I had helped her and that I could possibly help her friend, to keep writing. And so I was like, okay, God, you put it in my heart, I must have done something right by obeying your word.
Of course.
And doing what you told me to do. So I'm helping somebody, and that's really all that matters.
You never know how what you're going through will help someone else.
Exactly.
Purpose.
Exactly.
Purpose in your pain, purpose in your struggle.
Exactly.
Okay, so what inspires you?
What inspires me? Dreams, believing, like watching Oprah's Next Chapter interviews.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh, like I have a new respect for different people, like Rihanna's story. Rihanna talks about forgiving Chris Brown, which is amazing, because she only wants what she gives out to come back to her. So if you harbor hate, then hate is only going to come back to you. If you harbor love, then love is coming back to you. And that does not denote that, good and bad things happen in your life, and you have to embrace the good and the bad to know who you are, your strengths and your limitations.
Right.
But I think it's just the fact that people have stories, and I have one too. I remember I heard Spike Lee's interview with Oprah, and he talked about how he and Tyler Perry, didn't really have anything in common, or that whole rift between them.
Right.
And he said, he's from the South and I'm from the North. We have stories. They're just different, and everybody needs to be able to tell their story. And so I was like, okay, I received that. And so I think the inspiration to be able to tell my story, I get all kinds of different, I can see things, whether I'm watching a movie, I hear a song, I hear, a quote, and I love quotes. And so therefore I'm like, oh, I can do something about that. Like Fruitvale Station inspired me. Whereas also, I don't know, the Sound of Music inspires me. I'm very, I'm very different in my things that I like. I like Batman, I like action movies, and then I like chick flicks. So, just different things. I pull inspiration from everywhere because I try to see God in everything. My kids at school inspire me. Somebody called me a magician. And I was like, I'm not magic. And they were like, well, you're a counselor. Don't you change the attitudes of kids' lives that come in here? And I was like, well, okay, profound 8th grader child,
Well, they say all these kids, like, they've been here before anyway.
Exactly. Like. And sometimes I'm like, ooh. And then other times I'm like, what? And that's why I do this job. Sometimes I want to show. And then other times I want to hug them. So,
have you ever noticed that depending on where you are in your life, how something will affect you differently? Like maybe you saw a movie when you were 10 and then you saw it again when you were 20. And it has a totally different meaning for you than it did then. I just think it has a lot to do, as far as things inspiring you, I think it has a lot to do with where you are in your life. Like certain things will stick out to you. And that's kind of like further confirmation of, I think I'm on my right path. I think I'm where where I need to be, or I'm going where I need to go. Because I've seen this movie, or I've heard this quote, or I've heard this song a million times, but wait, I heard something different this time.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very true. I was trying to think of different movies as you were talking, and I'm like, I think I saw Love Jones when I was 13. I had no idea what Love Jones was about. Really.
Right,
like the
of course.
true concept. I always loved love. Like, my mom told me I was in love with the concept of love. And I was like, okay, you deep, huh? Right? I was like, okay, Mom. And I was like, I really am, because I had never really experienced it. And then, seeing it and knowing that heart-wrenching feeling, he the guy pisses you off, but then he turns you on. It's just, ugh. And so I was like, yes, I've been there, Nia Long. I have, And so it's just, and even the title of my book, The 2-7 Do Not Arouse or Awaken Love Until It So Desires, the whole scripture is a poem. Like, it's just, the whole Song of Solomon is a poem. And it talks about the love of God and his people, but also between a man and a woman, and that's from intimacy to lust to all those things. And so, of course, at this point in my life, I was like, oh. And then when I put it in the title, it's like, you don't know if you want that yet. So many of us jump in and out of relationships. It's like, do you really know what you're getting yourself into? Right. So dropping the L-bomb is unnecessary in some cases. And so until you know what it is, until you know that's what exactly you want, don't do it. Just wait. it'll come. It'll awaken in you, and you'll realize that that's what true love is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we're going to lighten it up a little bit. Not that it was heavy anyway. You know, I'm having fun. But I'm just going to ask you some goofy questions now.
Okay, let's go.
If you were a fruit.
Okay.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to give you a little bit more options. If you were a fruit or a vegetable,
Okay.
what would you be? And
Fruit
why?
And why? You threw the why in there.
And why?
Because I can end with just telling you fruit or vegetable. I'm thinking an avocado.
Okay.
Only because I didn't like avocados. Like, I didn't like guacamole until we graduated from NYU in 2006. And so my roommate, she's half Mexican. She was half Mexican. And we went to this Mexican restaurant where they had somebody make guacamole by the table, and you could add in extra jalapenos and all that. And I'm looking at the ingredients, and I'm like, maybe I'll try this, right? And so I tried it, and I fell in love with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. You know, and then I wanted to recreate it. And so, like, I got down to Florida when I moved with Dion, is his name that the story is about. And I made it again. Like, I made guacamole, and we sat there and watched TV and ate guacamole and chips. And it's a good fat, right? So avocado is a good fat. It's buttery. I read this like called a butter pear. Like, you can call an avocado a butter pear.
Okay.
Because it's still the shape of a pear, right? And I think I say all that to say because I didn't know who I was. And this story kind of brought a new perspective to who I was. You know, I didn't know who I was as a woman in love. I knew who I was as a woman that liked love or loved the concept of love, the Disney movies. I think I was more immature. And they say your palate changes every 7 years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when I think of that, I was like, oh, I just had to get accustomed to the taste of the avocado.
Excuse
had to get
me.
accustomed to the taste of who I was.
Okay, leave it to a fruit to teach you about life.
Exactly. Right? So I like that question. I think I'm the
I like your
avocado.
answer. In terms of writing, if you had to write another book and you had the choice of either writing the book completely on a cell phone, and I'm not talking about your, you know, these phones that are like tablet size.
Right,
I'm talking about just your normal size Android. If you had the choice to either write your book on this Android phone or write it on a typewriter that's missing the letter L, which one would you choose?
Ooh, that's a good question. Because that's really hard. Because cell phones mess up stuff all the time, and the letter L is clearly the topic that I love to talk about, right? So I guess I'd choose a cell phone, just because then I can send it right away. You know, I hit send, and it's all good. You know, and everybody and anybody can get it whenever they want it, you know, because I would hate to leave out the letter L and whatever I need to discuss. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'd go cell phone.
Which would you rather do?
Okay.
Would you rather...
Isn't that a drinking game?
It is.
I think so.
It
Would
may
you
be.
rather?
I don't know nothing
Maybe
about
I just
that.
turned
I
it
don't
into
know
one.
nothing about that. It may be. But which would you rather do? Would you rather write and continuously edit something without ever submitting it, or would you rather submit something without editing?
So it would have errors and all that. Probably just allow the errors to be there, because that's what life is, you know? I mean, we can't erase what we just said. We can't go back. I mean, we can apologize, sure, but we can't go back and erase something and be like, oh yeah, I didn't mean that. You know, we can't let people know that we don't know how to pronounce certain words or spell them. So, I mean, one of my words is, for whatever reason, I always have to look at convenience. I'm like, I before E, what is the rule? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So-
right. And then there are always exceptions to every rule. So.
Exactly. So I'm like, yeah, I'd rather just submit it with errors just so people can know that I'm human, and so are they. You know, nobody's perfect.
Right.
And that's what's great.
Okay. Well, that's all my silly questions. Before we go, what are some other upcoming projects that you have, current or upcoming projects that you're working on?
Well, I have more heart-to-heart workshops like I discussed earlier. So that's one coming up in February, another one, I think, July. And so probably going to get some more book signings out there. And then I have a billion books in my head because, like I said, I pull inspiration from different sources. I just don't know which way
Get 'em
to
out.
go. I know.
Get 'em out.
Out. Because honestly, every time like I need to write, somehow, some way, God will place it in my presence. Somebody will say something, I'll see the word right, I'll see or hear tell your story. You know, whether I was watching like a gangster movie yesterday called The Family with Robert De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted to write about his life. And I was like, really? Really? Like, can I just watch a movie without you throwing in my face that
Of
I
course
need to
not.
write because I need to get my stories out, you know?
course
So
not.
I was like, I can't get away from it. So every time I think God is like, when you don't write, I'm going to put it in your face. So I'm like, okay.
Well, good. Well, good.
Yeah.
I mean, I was inspired by 2-7, The Awakening of Love, and so I just can't wait to see what else you got in there.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
So tell everyone where we can find your book.
We can find The Awakening of Love, 2-7 The Awakening of Love on Amazon.com. We can find it on, I sell it at my church here in Nashville, Tennessee, the Temple Church. Also, it's at Parnassus, which is a little kind of mom and pop bookstore in Green Hills. And that's it for now. But I'm looking into doing more, of course, talking to more realtors and selling my book, Books A Million, other probably African American bookstores and things of that nature. So that's what I'm working on this year.
Okay. Great. Well, looking forward to it. As I said before, it's a very inspiring, very touching story. So thank you for sharing, and I pray that you will continue to share.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for tuning in, and catch me next time for Writer Spotlight Wednesday on the second Wednesday of every month.
Walk through life. Every day is a new beginning. Shine your light. It's a day